This episode of Your Morning Drive is brought to you by Fireworks Co-working. They are a creative co-working space located in Marietta, Georgia, focused on supporting the local community and uplifting creative entrepreneurs. If you want to try out this beautiful space, this podcast room is just one of the many available rooms and spaces available for you and your company to work at. If you want to try them, you can. Use code DRIVE at checkout and you'll get a free day pass. So, if you're working from home, if you're working at an office that you don't have to go to, if you're tired of working at your kitchen table where you have to listen to your kids or your spouse or the lawn people in the outside cutting the grass and it's too loud for your Zoom meetings. Well, you don't have to worry about that. You can try out Fireworks Co-working in Marietta, Georgia. It's right down the street from Kennestone Hospital. They are the presenting sponsor of Your Morning Drive. They offer me a beautiful space for me to be able to record my podcast with all of the creators, business owners, and other individuals that I get the pleasure of interviewing, and they can be your home too. So either go to the space, tour the place with the staff, tell them Logan Lewis from Your Morning Drive sent you, or if you're booking online, again, use code DRIVE, DRIVE, for a free day pass to try the space. Strongside Fitness is another partner of our podcast today. They've been voted the #1 gym in Cherokee County for 4 consecutive years. Are you tired of feeling sick and tired? Are you ready to take control, lose some weight, and feel like you did 20 years ago? They've got you. At Strongside, their group workout classes, led by certified trainers, create fun and safe workout environments that has helped thousands lose thousands. Strongside puts the community at the center of what they do. Everyone is welcome, everyone is treated equally, and everyone is safe to be there. If you want to get a free 7-day pass, visit their website, www.thestrongside.com. That's www.the-strongside.com and start your fitness journey today. Strongside, we make people better. Your Morning Drive is also present to us by Good Days Canned Cocktails. Good Days are a classic cocktail brand created in a convenient, ready-to-drink canned format for any occasion, whether it's a pool day, a boat day, a beach day, a graduation, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything in between. Good Days are there for you. Good Days are ahead when they are in your cooler, your fridge, your anything in between. Good Days has your back. If you want to be one of the first to try their drink, you can do so by visiting drinkgooddays.com/pages/find-us to find a store near you selling their drink. Of course, you must be 21 years of age to consume and purchase. Everybody, good morning to you. Welcome back to Your Morning Drive. I am the host with the most, Logan Lewis. It's great to be with you today. We are live from the Fireworks Studio in Marietta, Georgia. Before we get into everything, if you enjoy what we're doing here, make sure you send this to just one friend in your world that needs this show to start their day. If you want to send them a link, you can do so for Apple and Spotify. Those are the two major platforms we're sitting on as well. If they want to watch it on YouTube in full, they can do that as well. Of course, everything is just Your Morning Drive. The picture of the little coffee mug is the logo for the show there. If you want to support us more than just watching, there's a couple things you can do. You can follow along on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the socials, of course, and you'll get clips, shows, updates, announcements, behind the scenes stuff every once in a while, information about sponsors, all of those fun things on the socials. Another thing that I've started doing recently is I joined this service called Buy Me a Coffee. And it's just kind of an interesting way of supporting your favorite people. Sometimes, if you don't If you're not in a position to be a sponsor, or if you're not in a position to do business with me or anything like that, but you want to show your support, you can jump on the Buy Me a Coffee service and send a couple dollars, or, buy me a coffee and show support that way. But that's completely optional. It's just there in case people want to support, but they don't know how else to do it. You can find it there. And of course, all these links are in the description of the episode, so you can easily access them. My guest today is a visionary entrepreneur and a single mama of 4. She embarked on a transformative journey by betting on herself at the age of 40. You're going to have to see that ID, by the way, and choosing to rebuild a life she was proud of. She's the host of the Be Genuine with Jenn podcast, where her mission is for you to know your authenticity is your superpower. Please welcome my new friend, Jenn Gray.
Good morning.
Morning.
So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm pumped.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your, as we discussed beforehand, busy weekend.
We all got a couple things going on.
All of
life.
us. Yeah.
Yes, all the things.
I feel like they don't prepare you when you're younger that life is just as busy as it is.
Zero preparation, like zero. I mean, I think we probably do it to ourselves, right? Busy people are busy. Yeah. So I imagine you are just a busy person, because busy people also get a bunch of stuff done. So
I love getting stuff done.
Right?
Isn't it the best?
Exactly. So I can't even really complain, because I'm like, I said yes to all the things.
Yeah.
So I had all 4 of these kids who are all playing sports. Running a business, doing a podcast, all the things. So, I would rather be busy than bored any day.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Being bored is the worst.
The absolute worst.
And maybe it's my ADHD-ness in me that if I'm bored, there's like a little thought in the back of my head that's, you could be doing something else. You could be doing, it might not be number 1 on your priority list, but you could be doing this. You keep saying you want to do this. Why don't you start doing it right now? And it's the voices.
Right, the attack. I know, it's so funny. I was at a networking meeting last week, and they had a question beforehand, and that's what it is. So what do you do when you're bored? I was like, that must be nice. Yeah. I don't know that I ever get bored. And I feel like if I get bored, it's because now it's the end of the day and I need to sleep.
Yeah.
So that's usually the way it goes.
You are, speaking of networking events, you are the networking queen.
Well,
you go to all of the events.
Okay. So 4 weeks ago, there's this girl, she's a friend of mine who I met at a networking group, and she's like another level. Like, she does all of the things. And so my kids were on vacation with dad, and I was like, hey, girl, I'm going to come along to everything that you go to kind of find more, you kind of branch out of what I was doing and figure out, clearly don't have the bandwidth to do it every week, but went to 15 events in 4 days.
15 events in 4 days.
I questioned every ounce of my extrovertedness by day 2. I was like, okay, this is a lot of people. This is a lot of business cards. This is a lot. But it was so fun. And I discovered some brand new groups I'd never been to. So now I have some new people, new opportunities, new things. And it's so fun. So now literally, it's like at least every day I'm going to something.
That's incredible. I'm so jealous, because, part of trying to grow something on the side of a full-time job is I don't get to go to those networking events, and I hate it, because I also have FOMO. And, even if I'm sitting in the corner at this networking event, not talking to a soul, at least I could say I was there.
I know.
And I hate that I can't go.
Yeah. But the fact that you do what you do and you are so well networked, I'm like, where do you find all these people without showing up? So whatever you're doing is working, but I get it. It's a season. You'll be here. You'll be there soon.
Hopefully.
So yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, people say that all the time. They're like, how do you know all these people? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. It's, I can't thank my full-time job, because they taught me the importance of networking and never deleting a contact from your phone is what somebody said. They said, hey, you might not talk to that person anymore, but you never know when that person could either be a service to you or a service to somebody that you know.
Right.
And they just said, never delete a contact. And I was like, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So my contact list is, the other day I was looking for somebody and I was just scrolling. My wife was like, oh my God, how many people do you have in there? I'm like, hundreds.
Right.
Hundreds.
That's so good.
But I'm so jealous you get to go to all these events. I mean, I saw stories from you in Ball Ground, in Canton, Woodstock, Young, Wipeout, all of these things. And I was like, good Lord, this woman is everywhere. It was probably during that 4-day stretch, honestly,
yes,
where I was like,
probably was.
Jesus Christ.
Right. You're like, slow it down.
Are you okay?
Right. Exactly. You did this on purpose.
How much gas did you
Right?
burn that week?
Dude, that was another level. Yes, it was a lot of gas, all the things. But yeah, I mean, when you're in the people business, I don't want to say sales because I feel like it's so different. It's relationships. Like in my podcast, I'm looking for stories. Just like you are, right? You're looking to highlight people. I think we have so much to learn from each other. You know, success leaves clues if you're building something, or, you know, even relationships leave clues. Like just to get to dissect people's story and hear their journeys, I think is awesome. And so the only way I feel like I can really get to know people is just to get out there. And, you know, practically I do, you know, have a business, like I make money, you know,
Sure.
by, you know, selling health insurance and life insurance. But my passion is connecting with people and highlighting their stories and, you know, stepping into that. So I'm thankful. Right? Like I didn't even know networking was a thing. So
Neither did I.
Like last summer, I stumbled upon one because there was like a baseball mom. She's, hey, have you ever gone to a networking group? I'm like, a what?
Yeah.
Like people like just do this.
People just meet weekly and
right?
they just talk.
Right. And they're like, yeah. So I showed up and then another one started fresh in fall. And I was like, okay, it's like groundbreaking, you know, like starting from the bottom.
Yeah. You're like
And
one
I
of
was
the
like,
starting members.
Right. OG.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is fun. I love the vibe. And then just discovering there's actually meetings that happen just like that. Like I went to 15 in 4 days and these were happening last week, but I didn't know about them. And, you know, it's amazing what you don't know till you know it, and just connecting with the right people. And,
you know, I always talk about going to networking events and saying, I want to start one myself. Like I do because so little therapy session here. I grew up all around the country. I moved a lot.
Okay.
My dad is in commercial construction. So we would travel all the time and I always had to be the new kid. And so I don't want to be the new kid anymore. So whenever I walk, I hate the everyone raise your hand and tell me something about you. I hate that.
Yeah.
But because I had to do it my entire life.
Right.
But
that's so funny.
So that's why I'm like, I need to start my own group so I can be like, yeah, I'm one of the founding members. You're the new kid.
That's hilarious. There's probably, speaking of therapy session, there's probably some of that in why that one group became like a core for me. Because again, it wasn't like I had to be like the fish jumping into the big sea of all these people who knew each other. I'm like, no, we just all started this thing together.
Yeah.
And well, especially too, you know, there's a lot of groups. I know you have a full-time job, but there's a lot of like after hours events, which I know you went to some this weekend and stuff, but you know, I think that people are starting to cater to the fact that for like multiple streams of income look like a lot of different things right now.
Correct.
People are spinning a lot of hats, a lot of wheels, all going all the places. And so to have opportunities for anybody looking to connect, I think it's.
And I love that because I think for a long time it was just like, hey, this is going to be during the day at 10 o'clock at a brewery or a coffee shop or something. Right. And it's but I was actually talking to somebody about this last night and they said, I don't know if there's ever been such a boom for creative or entrepreneurship or side hustles or anything like there is in the last maybe 5 years. And it'll probably continue for the next 5 to 10 years, probably, or maybe forever.
Right.
But the fact that they are doing things after hours, it shows that's okay. We understand that not everybody can do things during the day.
Right.
So we'll give opportunities to do stuff after work, which I appreciate.
I bet you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the love.
Yes. Shout out to those people.
Right.
So you mentioned, I want to get into all of your creative stuff, but first, who are you?
That is a loaded question.
It is. People hate that question.
Who am I? So practically, I am a mom of 4 kids, ages 8 to 14. They are my world. They are so fun. No, I wasn't one of those moms that was like, I want a massive family when I grow up. Like some people just do. They're just like,
I want 8 kids.
Right, exactly. And so I laugh that I have 4. I could not imagine it any other way. They're absolutely amazing. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. So I'm a mom, and I used to work on staff at a church. I was actually living my dream life, my dream job. I went to school for speech communications, minor in youth ministry. And I like trailblazed the idea that in churches, I felt like there needed to be a female counterpart to the youth pastor. Culture's just shifted. It's just different. Like one-to-one meetings with a youth pastor and a high school girl, like probably isn't okay anymore. And I took, probably about 15 years to prove that it was needed, then proved it, got a position. and hosted all kinds of events. It was called The Table, where I wanted girls to feel like they belonged. I don't care what you did on Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. I want you to know there's a place where you can genuinely belong and find really amazing relationships.
I love that.
It was incredible. So I had hundreds of girls at these gatherings. And honestly, as that grew in my life, also the spotlight on the fact that I was just living this double life. Fast forward a few months after that, I actually went through a divorce. So through that, I unexpectedly lost my position, lost my community, lost my church, lost a lot of relationships, hurt people. And in my hurt, I just it was a lot. And I know I got really deep, really fast.
I have more questions, but I don't want to pry at it.
I mean, you totally can. I mean, I'm an open book, but yeah, so I had to restart and I went Woodstock High School. I had a secretary job open. I'm like, well, it's high school students. And so I'll just jump in there. I needed something mindless because I'd spent my whole time building something.
Sure. Yeah.
And did that. And then COVID happened. And ended up doing graphic design on the side and stayed home with my kids and got into a relationship. Thought was the love of my life. All the things. Lived in Texas for 1.5 years, Logan. I mean, it's crazy. All because I thought I was doing what was best for my kids. And fast forward, it was not. It just wasn't. So I spent 1.5 years driving back and forth, the 12-hour drive from Texas to Georgia. I was here 10 days a month. Kids were out there, all of that. So when you're mama bear trying to protect your kids from hurt, it makes you do crazy things. And so then last March 2023, it was straw that broke the camel's back. And I'm like, no, I don't know what forward is going to look like, but I know what's never going to exist. Right. And I will not be treated like this or exist like this or all of that. And a lot of life lessons have happened since that point. And when I came back, we were business partners as well. So we built this very successful multi-six-figure business. And I personally had $18 to my name. And even that, I'm like, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to be okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a life of peace. I'm going to build a life that honors who I am to my core. And I'm just going to keep moving forward one step at a time. So if you've ever heard me say on anything, especially my podcast, I talk about how my life was burned to the ground in 2023, in every facet. I mean, I was just completely starting over. I didn't have a place to live, which is funny. So I didn't have a place to live at first. And so I was like, you know what? People pay for pet sitters. Yeah. So if I go on Cherokee Connect and say I'm a pet sitter, then I can go and stay in people's homes and they're going to pay me instead of paying for a hotel. Right. Yeah. So I did, it was right around spring break. So, I mean, I did that for a good 3-4 weeks. I was just going, I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, you can just swing by and take our dog out. I'm like, are you okay if I stay over? They're like, oh yeah, if you want to do that. And I'm like,
can I shower?
right. So it's funny now because during then it was again, when I say one step at a time.
Wow.
I mean, one step at a time. And so I kept going and then I do insurance, which is crazy, right? My passion is high school girls and speaking. And so how on earth did I get in health insurance and life insurance? And never in a trillion years would have thought I would have ever done that and got licensed in that. But I found a great agency with just a heart for people. It's like they put the heartbeat back into that industry. Mm-hmm. And I love connecting with business owners. I love connecting with entrepreneurs and cheering them on in their journey and being able to provide a practical service. Okay, dude, you just left your corporate job. You're going out on your own and everything is scary and crazy. Let me just make sure your family's taken care of. Let's get your health insurance in place. Let's get you some life insurance. Let's talk about some tax-free retirement. And just to come alongside, put my arm around and provide this practical service is really what I love that I get to do and never thought that existed in the insurance industry. And then fast forward, you can stop me at any point. I'm going to fast forward going to you till I get to right now. Yeah. So in all of this, my mantra was, I just want to heal because I could blame a lot of people for a lot of things. And what I learned is if I blame a lot of people, I grow from nothing. And until I take ownership for the fact that I could blame it on a bad failed relationship or failed marriage or the church or whatever. And what I realized through all of that is if I blame them, then I forget I am the character that was involved in all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And until I own the fact that maybe it was, I ignored red flags, or I didn't listen to my gut intuition, or I didn't follow where I knew I should have headed, right? And all of those things got me to a place of where I need to heal, because if I don't, then I'm going to just get myself back into all of this madness again. And life's too short. And this isn't a dress rehearsal for anything. It's our only shot. And I started by like, my morning routine was like my saving grace, because every morning I'm like, if I can get up and I can tell myself I can do something hard, then everything else from the rest of the day, I can remind myself, no, Jen, you got up at 5 a.m, you took a cold shower and you did 100 burpees, or you did all these squats, you did whatever. And you can do hard things, Jen. And so it became like ritualistic, and it was just as much for mental health as it was for physical health. Of that morning routine for me was just like critical. And it was listening to, a powerful podcast while I was working out. It was journaling, it was praying, it was just getting ready for whatever the day would bring. And I continued that and just trusted that if I just keep following what again honors my core values. And so I say that. And for me, I think everybody has different ones, but for me, it's empathy, it's kindness, and it's excellence. And I want my business and my life and my relationships to be led with empathy. Like we talked about before, like everybody has a story, and they do. And like, it sucks the fact that people don't have a place for their story. It's not met with open arms and open ears. It's met with judgment and condemnation and shame. And I think that's crazy, because we just isolate people for unnecessary reasons. And then, kindness, we just all need to be kind, and excellence. I want anything that I do to be done with, it's not going to be perfect, because I'm not perfect, but I'm going to give it my whole heart, and I'm going to go all in. And every day I'm like, okay, Jen, whatever you're doing today, you're going to do it with excellence. You're going to be kind to the people around you, and you're going to have empathy on people. And it brought forgiveness for my family has had restored relationships in the last year. I missed the birth of a niece and a nephew in this whole season of being in Texas, and things that you can't go back.
Mm-hmm.
But the powerful part of that is the fact that you can go forward, and the next day can look different than yesterday. And that's what I focus on, that our best days are always ahead. So if we take ownership, we have empathy, and we genuinely, seek to forgive and to move forward and to really take ownership of our part in all of it, then there is a beautiful life on the other side of that. And has it been easy? No, dude. I mean, I ended up, after reconciling with mom, like moving in with my mom. Like when you think about your life at 40, that's probably not on the page. Like you think that this is going to happen. But the fact even that is that I got to rebuild without the worry of a home over the head of my 4 kids. Like, who gets to do that? Like, who gets to just like dream and make it happen and just go for it without that worry? And so I'm so grateful, and it's so humbling to literally go back to completely square one.
Yeah.
And that's why I started the podcast. I always wanted to speak again. I was told by a pastor that if I went through a divorce, I would never influence anybody again. And I refused to believe it. And I refused to accept that. And here's the one thing beautiful about a podcast is that just like we get to do it. Nobody gets to tell us we can't do it, right? Like you go through the work of starting one, and then it's your platform, and you get to choose how you want to use your voice and what value you want to add and the impact that you want to have on people. And I said, I'm not going to let someone else decide what impact that my life has based on the decision I made that was best for my family. And so I'm super honest on the podcast that, listen, I'm not coming to you as this super crazy successful businesswoman who like made 6 figures in her first year of branching out from a relationship and all of that. No, I have big dreams, and I'm headed there. And I'm just inviting you on the journey of what it looks like to shift your mindset, to go all in with who you genuinely are. Like, strip off the masks. It's why your authenticity is your superpower is my tagline, because I discovered that I'm enough. that my authenticity, like who I really am to my core, is what people around me need. They don't need a diluted, mask covered version of myself. They just need all of me. And then that's when I can ultimately be what, I believe that God created me to do and the impact that he created me to have. And so I just started. So my business mentor, Jessie Lee Ward, she was like big in like network marketing space. And I wasn't even like in her network marketing team. I just saw her on social. And whenever I saw her, girlfriend was making millions of dollars a month. And she was as real as could be. I mean, just t-shirt, bike shorts and hair pulled back, just like as authentic as she could be. And I was like, when you like see yourself in somebody, you're like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I always envisioned success looking, and I'm not saying success is all monetary, but I also think that there's abundance to be had, and there's no scarcity in what we can have or do. And so as I'm watching her, I followed her along, and then she became my business mentor and coach, and 34, peak of her life. And she got diagnosed last February with stage 4 colon cancer. So that was in February. I left Texas in March. Life crumbled and all the rebuild. In September, she passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And it was like, what in the world? But it was one of the most powerful things that it was like crystal clear, God saying, you still have a voice. Like you've learned so much from her. Like her teaching like completely had shifted my mindset, even in the personal growth and personal development space. That was so foreign to me 5 years ago. And now it's funny because I'm so like outwardly speaking about mindset. And that's also the power. Like you can change in 24 hours. And so it doesn't take 2 decades of a journey to be able to shift your mind and where you're headed and what you're doing. And so that day she passed away on a Saturday, and I was reading a book called Reinvention Formula by Craig Siegel. And I was on the chapter on Monday called Messy Action. And as I'm reading that, one of my last conversations with Jessie Lee, like a couple months before that, wasn't around the arena of starting a podcast. And she just got to go. And I'm like, I'm not ready. My life just crumbled. And how can I do this? And she passed away Saturday. On Monday, I read that chapter. And on Tuesday, I started my podcast. I already knew what I wanted it to be about. And I finally was like, all these limiting beliefs there's no room for it. I'm just going to go. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be me. I'm not going to be anybody else. Mel Robbins has a powerful podcast called Just Be a Beginner. Own the fact that you're a beginner. Don't pretend that you've been doing this for 5 years if you're doing it for 1. So just own that. I'm like, I'm going to own it. I got nothing to prove other than I have a message, and I'm going to take you on the journey, and we're going to do this together. And I took the jump and took the leap with no fancy equipment and just jumped. That's a very good story. I mean, it's a lot. It
is. I want to say, first off, that's insanely inspiring to hear all that. That's really powerful stuff. Especially, the crumbled relationships. And first of all, I want to say sorry that happened, but I am willing to bet that when people say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened, you're like, I'm not, because if it weren't for that, you wouldn't be here.
You get it. Yep. 100%. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Like I won't, don't want my kids to go through that. Of course not. But I am not the same person I was 5 years ago.
But you're thankful for it.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. In such a weird, twisted way, right. We're thankful for the things that crumbled us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's powerful. That's really good.
Well, and I think one little quote that I heard, like, your pain is your purpose. And like when you really take your mess and it becomes your message. And here's the thing, people can't relate to on the top stories. Like most people don't have this, I've achieved major success, right? That's not the unifying conversation. That's not the bridge builder conversation. The bridge builder conversation is, I get it. Like I may not know the pain that you've been through, but I guarantee you've been through some stuff that you had to pick yourself up and you have to keep moving forward one day at a time. And I think people need to be way more open and give themselves way more credit. If you can look at your life and look back 5 years ago and think, am I the same person I was 5 years ago?
Not at all.
Not even close. And if we understand, okay, the fact that we're not that same person means that we can connect with anybody who's where we were 5 years ago, and our life can show them what they can be in 5 years. So if you're like, I can't impact anybody, but you answer yes to the question that 5 years ago is different for you, then I'm like, those are your people. Whether it's, for me, it's people like living in like this closed-minded thing. Like I never thought divorce was even an option. And listen, I'm not about divorce. Divorce is hard. Navigating divorce with 4 kids is torturous. Like it is hard. But I also know that my kids are better off now because of it. And they would say that. They're like, we like you and daddy way better separate. I'm like, even though I thought we, protected them from the thing before. So no matter what part of our journey, the fact that we can get back up. And a lot of times people hear my story. Honestly, Logan, they're like, oh, wait, you were hurt by the church. I bet you hate the church. I'm like, no, I went this morning. Because for me, it wasn't even that. I'm like, I'm not going to let people and the wrong people steal the joy out of things of life. And to know that you have to separate things. And no, do I go to the same place? No. But even that, like there's a whole huge layer of forgiveness about that. Just want to do that as a side note. I don't live with bitterness. Like I refuse. I watched what bitterness did to me for a couple of years. And that's when I looked in the mirror last March and said, I don't even know the two eyes looking back at me.
Yeah.
Like I was so hard-hearted and hurting and faking it till I made it and trying to appear like something that, that I so was not. And that when you put your head on the pillow at night, you have to deal with the reality of your life. And I don't say that as doom and gloom. I say that as the first part of changing is to recognize it. And then we can move forward and then we can get you out of that. And so I think that life's too short to think that you're stuck in anything. That's one of my main messages for sure.
I love that message because there's probably a ton of people out there, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about like the past few years have been this like big boom and like people really truly chasing what they're passionate about.
Right.
If you are working, and I did an amazing podcast with somebody that I should try to connect you with. Her name's Kiera Palmer. Cool. And she runs this women's business group. She has her own like content studio where people can come and book meetings, or kind of similar to this place where people can work for the day. They can do photo shoots, record podcasts, all these things. And she was working a high executive 6-figure job and wanted to do more, but was afraid to leave. And then she just one day was just like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Good for her.
And and I said this on her episode too. If you are miserable, you have every ounce of control to change it.
Like the worst thing you can do is become a victim.
Yeah.
Because then you've given the microphone of your life, the ownership of your life to anybody and everybody but yourself. Yeah. You're like, oh no, your opinion of me is worth more than my opinion, or what. It's a scary place to be. And
it is. I've been there.
Me too. I'm saying it's scary because exactly right. I've been there too. Yeah. I gave everybody the microphone. That's why when I had my own voice and I stepped away from the church, it was like, wow. Everyone's shocked, right? Because my whole life, I was the people pleaser of all people pleasers. Logan, I didn't have one enemy. There's no one that didn't like Jenn. But I don't even say that with pride. It's because Jenn didn't even know Jenn. Jenn was just all things to all people. And I was so like 1 centimeter deep in things. And I was just whatever you need me to be. And I thought that's what it looked like to build others up. You had to become nothing. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. But I mean, I had an alcoholic dad and, dealt with all that. I was the oldest of 3 girls. So I didn't really know what it was like to be a daughter, knew what it was like to be like a third parent. And so my whole life, it's always been about everybody else. Yeah. And I said that as a badge of honor. But what I've learned is my life is about serving anybody and everybody that I can, but I'm going to serve them with who I am. Right? Like I have stances, like I have things that I will and will not do. I have character and integrity and, instead of just being like, oh yeah, whatever. So there's that, but.
I could listen to you talk forever. That's so good. It's so good. And it's so inspiring. I really hope like people listen to these and every once in a while find a glimmer of hope, because there's somebody out there that's just in their cubicle at work and they're hating every moment of their life. And they just turn on this episode and they hear you talk about that. And they're just like, what am I doing?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I love. And that's where a lot of times, like on my podcast, I'll have people, that's what we highlight is that moment of their life where they were doing something, headed in a direction. They were essentially, maybe hating life is an extreme, but they're definitely not happy. Sure. They're in what you're just talking about. And then they decide to change and decide to do something different. It's the corporate, CEO that decides to leave that and go start his own business and take his family through 5 years of financial question marks because he knows it's worth chasing the dream that he has inside of his heart that keeps him up at night. Mm-hmm. And I love that like elbow of life. That's like, what made you jump? I'm sure you didn't have it all figured out. I mean, and that's what I love it.
Nobody ever does.
No, exactly. But so many times our mind tells us we have to be confident. Yeah. And I heard something and it says, no, actually what you need first is courage. And the confidence will come later once you're in the arena. Sure. But you won't have confidence until you actually get in the arena of what you want to do. So stop waiting for confidence because it's not going to come until you actually take that jump. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so powerful.
That is so powerful.
Because we're waiting until we're ready, right? And we're never going to be ready. And that's a beautiful thing that nobody's ready. And yet look how many people are doing really amazing things. And they all started scared. They took messy action and they just jumped.
I love that. Messy action. Right? That's really good. So where did insurance come in all of this? I mean, I'm sure you got to a point where you're like, I need to be able to provide.
Right.
Like I need to provide for the kids, for myself, and to be able to try to build these things that you can, you want to build. So why insurance? Why that step?
Yeah. When I went to Texas, he had gotten licensed in insurance and I was just like doing my graphic design thing on the side, whatever, like high five, go get it. And then I went on some appointments and then I went to some like team meetings with the agency. And I met some guys like Paul Roberts and Phil Hebert. And these are just like genuine, amazing people. And they all had crazy stories. And none of them imagined ever doing insurance. And I was like, okay, you're my people. And I love that it was a pathway to achieve a different level of financial freedom with a $200 license. I'm like, oh, that 6-figure college debt that I have.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, it was literally $200 for a license. And then that's actually where Jesse Lee came in. Because a lot of times with these types of sales jobs, you like buy leads, you call strangers and you go, and I'm like, that is not my jam. That does not excite me. No. So I took Jesse Lee and teaching about network marketing and I translated that into insurance. And so I built all of it through social media. So because I can get licensed in any state. So I'm not limited so if you can hear me, I can help you. So I just went crazy with that strategy and I loved it. I loved that I could, build that on social media, which then helped transition me back to Georgia because I was already building it on social media. And then I became the agent with benefits where I was giving benefits packages to entrepreneurs and kind of did that little cheeky, tagline. I don't go by that anymore, but it was just a good little transition. And but now it's funny. I talk a lot about social media branding. And when I was like just getting started, when I say that just getting started, that would have March is like restarting.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about health insurance. Nobody really wants to talk about life insurance. And so me making social media content, I don't care how good my video angle was or how, if I can light up your screen with my smile or whatever, it doesn't matter. If I'm talking about health insurance, nobody cares. And I'm like, there's got to be a different way. And so now like my content is about my podcast and my business boomed when I stopped talking about the insurance. Because people connect with me. They know who I am.
Yeah.
Like literally a stranger, a business owner in Wyoming said, hey, I heard you do 401k rollovers because I'll just randomly in my stories put up, hey, got questions about this or this, shoot me a message. And he's like, hey, I saw you do 401k rollovers. I left my job. An 8-minute Zoom, I'm rolling over this massive 401k and taking care of him. He's, hey, I just trust you. And I was like,
I relate to that so heavily. I love that so much.
Yes.
It's because, that's the importance of networking there is that networking, if you are walking into a networking event on a casual Tuesday morning and you expect that networking event is going to bring you instant business, you are so sadly mistaken.
Yes.
But once people trust you, they're so willing to do anything with you.
Anything.
They're like,
everything.
oh yeah, I see you post about that every other day or every day. I'm finally ready to talk about it. And they're going to choose you because they trust you versus the 50 billion other insurance agents out there that are posting, you and your family should have health insurance. Yeah. Like you said, no one cares about that content.
It's an infomercial. We skip those like as soon as we can.
We just tap right through it. It's an ad on a YouTube video. We don't 100%. Care. We do not care.
Nope.
We just want to get to the content that we want, and the content that they want is you.
Right. 100%, which is why your authenticity is your superpower. Go with what you're good at. And that's why when I talk with business owners, even about social media branding, it has nothing to do with your product. It has nothing to do with what specials you have going on, anything. I'm like, here's 9 things I want you to think about that have nothing to do with your business that your people need to know about you, because they're going to connect with you on a deeper level. And it's, which I love. And they're like, wait, what, that works? I'm like, I want you to go scroll my feed. And I want you to see the last time you've seen anything that I've talked about relating with insurance. And they're like, oh, I'm like, no, you know that I'm a mom. You know that I wake up every single morning with my 14-year-old daughter and we work out at 5 a.m. What does that tell you about me? I'm disciplined and I'm going to show up for myself. If I show up for me, I'm sure as heck going to show up for you. And just so many different things that you can show people what makes you. And then again, it causes them to trust you. And it's like I had to take a step back, because I'm like, losing my voice going live on social media every day and creating all the reels and doing all the content calendar and all of that. And I'm like, I'm getting nothing. And, I waited the 90 days.
Discouraging.
Totally discouraging. And what I learned was it wasn't the content calendar's problem. It was the content of the content calendar. And now when I have consistency, giving people what they want, and that's a mindset shift, that's an encouragement, that's a hope in a dark day, and all of those things, when I can give them that and provide that value, then they check you out. Oh, wait, you also do this. So it's just a completely different way of building business. And that's networking. I mean, I'm almost a year in. And now, like you just said, now I've achieved the fact I have a tribe of people that would do anything and everything to help me win. And so my business has adjusted to 80% referrals from networking and 20% social media, but it's taken me almost a year. But again, you got to, like you said, you got to be genuine. You got to go with the long game, and you've got to go into want to connect with people to help them win too. Like you talked about your phone, right? Having all these people in your phone still, it's because maybe one day you're going to make a connection. You're like, oh, I've got your person. And you build so much trust with people when you just become a great connector, and you can't connect people with who they need until you get to know the people they need.
I have a great career mentor, and he knows who he is. Shout out to Chaz. And he prides himself, I think, and if he doesn't, he needs to. He's a great connector.
That's awesome.
He goes, yo, Logan, you need to talk to this guy. You need to talk to that guy. And he does that so well. Mm-hmm. And I was able to recently, I'm going to humble brag, I was able to be that person for somebody recently. And it worked. Right. Like I was telling you before we recorded that I went to this event last night where this guy, he connects live shows for local artists and such. And then an episode, the day that we're recording this, I have an episode coming out in 2 days with a guy who him and some buddies started up a streaming service where, unlike Apple and Spotify, all of the streaming, or 50% of the streaming revenue, goes straight to the artist pocket, rather than like when you and I listen to Drake or Taylor Swift on Spotify and Apple, they get 1/10 of a penny every stream, which is nothing. Yeah. And I mean, if you're Drake and Taylor Swift, you're probably not worried about it. But if you're a local artist that performs at, Horndow Brewery down the street, you're making maybe $5 a year on Spotify. Right. And so after I interview this guy, Nick, and I'm like, oh my God, Mark does this thing with all these indie artists. And so, of course, I put them together, and I'm like, you guys need to work together. And then the show last night is sponsored by the guy's streaming service. And I'm like, this is freaking fantastic. And I get that. And, I don't do it for the pat on the back. But this morning when you wake up to a text that's just, dude, I'm so happy you connected us. That is so amazing and powerful. And I was like, God, that's so awesome.
And that's what it is. And even that.
I just want to see my homies win.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's the whole point. And that's another thing. It's if you are in a low place and you hate life right now, look outside of yourself for half a second. Who can you help today? Right? Just like that. There is so much more. We're created to help people. Like we're created to serve each other and to help each other. And we are relational beings to our core. And it's so cool to be able to use our little life to. It took how long for you to connect them? Like 30 seconds probably. Yeah, but easy. The impact, it's stupid. Yeah. And it's if you hadn't shown up to make those relationships in each place, like you would have just missed out on being a cool part of his story. Right, correct. And thinking about all the people that are a part of my story that like in the last year, it's like this, brain-based chiropractor that's like totally helping me like heal my brain from all like the craziness of life. And I didn't even know I needed it. It's like fascinating, but
that sounds amazing. I might need to look into that.
Okay, you really do need to. Like Dr. John Ambrosio at the Center for Life Enhancement, just a free shout out for him because it's been amazing. But just connected, like one thing at a time with people, what they're good at and how they can add value to you. And then you get to, connect and keep going for it. I think it's so cool when you're in those right circles. And that's where alignment, I think, is so huge too, because before it's not that I didn't want to help people, but I wasn't even like in a space to think that was even a thing. But just like that, the fact that your business mentor trained you in that, your eyes are open different. Like you just think about relationships different. Yeah. You're like, who can I connect you with?
Right.
Even that, you're already telling me I got to connect you with this other person that was on my podcast. Yeah. Because it's like your brain, once it's in that direction, that's who you are. And even that's cool. I love that.
I have a total side question, and I hope you love this question, is do your kids know that their mom is a superhero?
Oh, you're so cool. That's nice.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I luckily had 2 parents growing up. Mm-hmm. My parents are still together to this day.
Love it.
And sure, of course, there's times where you're thinking like, mom and dad are going to get a divorce, but it, luckily for us, it didn't happen.
Yes.
But I mean, how inspiring for you to go through all that shit that you went through, and your kids, and you're doing everything you can for them. And the younger ones might not understand it as much, but I'm sure your oldest does. And to see you go through all that stuff and then doing these things that you're doing every day, you have to think that they think that you're an absolute badass.
I want them to know it's possible. I think how do I tell them that their dreams, there's no limit on them if I don't chase them myself. And so if there's anything that I want them to learn, and they see the ins and outs, like they see mommy putting them to bed and staying up till midnight and waking up at 5 and doing whatever. It's not like this is easy, glorious. I want them to know it takes a lot of hard work. But when you're passionate about something and when it's what you're made to do, like the grind is worth it. And so I don't shy them away from the hard parts, but it is cool. My son did write this paper last year, and that was like one of those like moments. And my mom's taught me that he said, now I believe I know I can do anything.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, my work here's done. Right. Because
you have done your duty as a parent. Right there.
Yeah.
That was the proof of the pudding.
100%. Yeah. So
when you see stuff like that, I mean, I don't have children yet, so I don't know that feeling. But when you see that paper that your son writes, does it just make you want to bust into tears?
Oh, I did bust into tears because I didn't even know he wrote it. And it was just like casually on the counter. Yeah. And, I'm just like, oh, let me just read this to see whether it goes into like my mom's save pile, or if it just go to the trash. Because hello, 4 kids, lots of papers.
Sure.
And then it just took your breath away.
Yeah,
I'm like, Cam.
You're just sucked out of the world for a split second. All you have in front of you is that letter.
Yeah.
And you're just reading it and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that so much. So your podcast. So for your format. So again, like I told you before, I don't do much research on folks because I want to learn just as, I would not be having the amazing time I'm having right now if I would have done, half the amount of research that I probably should. Everyone's always, you don't do any research. That's a little unprofessional. I'm like, I do the enough research.
Right.
I think following you and watching your stories on a daily basis is the research I need.
Yeah.
Because I know what kind of person you are and the kind of energy you put off. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of research I do.
Yeah.
So I've not listened to an episode of your podcast yet.
Yeah.
I will on my way home now that I know more about you, because I don't want to listen to the podcast and you tell this big story about something. And I'm like, oh man, spoiler for my episode with you, selfishly.
Yeah.
So what's the format? Do you have guests? Do you do solo episodes? What's your whole, every episode, you're, like you said, you're being authentic, you're being genuine, which I love. I love, by the way, that you keep sprinkling that word in when we're talking about stuff, because I'm like, that's your brand. Be genuine.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, give me the whole rundown on the show itself.
Yeah. So it started out just solo episodes, about 20 minutes. Yeah. Just honestly, it was regurgitating what I was reading, because I am an avid reader. It's funny. Like I was total Cliff Notes girl in high school. Same. Like the fact that I read now, like my kids, half of them like to read, half of them don't. I'm like, hey, it's okay. There's always hope, because at 35, all of a sudden I'm like, I am a reader. Yeah. And I love it. They think it's funny. I didn't like to read before. So part of that was, I know enough to know that if you teach it, you're learning at a totally different level. So I'm reading books that are shifting my mindset. I'm reading Over the Top, going old school Ziglar. And then I'm reading Power of One More by Ed Milet, and, Reinvention Formula by Craig Siegel, Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima, all these books that are like these great mindset things. And I'm like, I'm just going to get out like the chunks that are affecting me and like where I'm at, connecting it with part of my story. So it's not just like a book club, essentially. We're just talking about the book. It's how these thoughts have intersected with my world. And I'm like, we're just going to talk about that and a shift in mindset and jumping into authenticity. And I talk a lot in the beginning episodes about reframing my story, right? Coming out of thinking I was a victim to knowing, no, I am a victor. And there's a lot that I've learned from it, like we already alluded to, right? That we're not the same people after the hard things. And so I want people to see that in every episode, because no matter what the topic is, I think that's powerful. And so I break it down. Like I have an episode on forgiving yourself, an episode on healing relationships, on having empathy on people who hurt you, on jumping out of your comfort zone. Just these different things that day in and day out is what people are like, well, how did you really start moving forward? And I'm like, well, I'm just going to break it down. You don't really think you have a system until you realize, oh, maybe my morning routine was actually a deeper meaning than I alluded to. I just did it because I knew I needed some kind of consistency in my life, but there was a deeper meaning to that. So started that until I guess about April of this year. And I was so nervous, Logan, to have a guest. I felt like I needed to go study Oprah. It's one thing for me to talk for 20 minutes. Like I've done keynotes before, so that was easy. But like interviewing, I'm like, what am I going to do with dead time? What am I going to do if I don't know what to ask? Or what if and I'm like, I'm just going to jump, because I wanted to highlight people's stories.
Correct.
And I don't want to just go meet and hang out with you and then come back to my podcast and be like, I got to tell you all about this really amazing guy that I met and how he's like going all out and having this podcast, working his ass off to, create this life that he wants to live. It doesn't mean the same unless you actually go and have that person on your podcast.
Yeah.
And so I did. I jumped and just said, let's just do this. And still to this day, like, you are way fancier than me. So I literally use my laptop, originally just my laptop. And then I had my phone with Spotify podcasters app. Mm-hmm. And I was literally like, that was in front of me, on my, so that's how I started.
Wow.
But I'm like, I know I want the live, I know I want the video. So we're going to do YouTube. So I'm going to go live on YouTube. Yeah. And I'm going to have the audio here, and then I'll upload the audio to, Spotify, Apple, all the things after. And that's how I'm going to do it. And so that's what I did. Now I use StreamYard because
wonderful program.
It's so good, right? It adds like having the intro video on there, and it's just such an easy,
incredible platform. Yeah.
Yes.
I started on StreamYard as well, and I couldn't say better things about it.
Yeah. So most of my guests were all not in Georgia. So that's what I used for all of my, I think so. I'm just now, literally this Thursday, I have my first in-person guest. So I have a great friend who's turned their living room, a side of their living room, into my in-home studio, which talk about good friends, right?
Talk about wanting your friends to win.
Like literally reorganize their living room to make this space so I could just come in and record podcasts. So they are literally, a godsend.
Can't wait to see it myself.
So this Thursday is my first one. But and so I focus on what I was saying before, that part of your life where you chose to go all in and bet on yourself and just jump. And let's talk about that journey, because like you said, if somebody can listen and find hope and find some kind of connection that they're like, oh, wait, if they did it, I can. That's what I think is so powerful. And those are the moments that I want to create, is inspiration to the core of, if any of us can, we have no previous, there's nothing makes me more qualified than any Joe Schmo listening to this. And that's the powerful part. You just got to bet on yourself and just go, and don't be scared of messing up, because you're going to suck, and just keep doing it. So then you'll suck less, right?
Less,
like it
far
just,
less.
Well, that's the name of the game. Again, not waiting for confidence, but just taking the courage. And so I am, about once a week is when I post, and I still have, like I just did, my last episode was a solo episode. So if I have something that's come up continually in my world, then I'll still do a solo episode, because when I have a guest on, as you are, I want it to be about them. Sure. And so I'm not here to teach when I'm here to interview. Yeah. So if I have something I want to share and teach on, then I just do a solo episode on that.
Yeah.
So.
I like that a lot. I always tell people that it is my show, but it's not, it's your show.
Yeah.
And I just love, I don't even know if you know this, but I did, and we can save some of this for the maybe potential interview that you do with me, because I'd love to be on yours as well.
For sure.
Is for the first, so I've done this podcast for 7 years. And
no way.
Yeah, this will be like episode 380 or something. I don't know.
Go you.
So many. Which also I want to take a side note and congratulate you, because I don't know if you know or if you've seen the statistic, but they say 80% of podcasts fail before the 10th episode is even uploaded. So the fact that you've made it, so the fact that you've made it a year, is incredible in and of itself. So congrats on that, by the way.
Thanks.
But I just love, I'm a big movie freak. I love movies and music and TV shows and binging and all that lifestyle. So for the first 4 years of this podcast, that's all I did was I would get with co-hosts and we would just break down new movies and entertainment news and gossip and all those things. And it got to the point where every once in a while, I would interview a friend about his business because he'd be like, hey, you got a podcast. Can I talk about my business? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And so it would just be this one-off where it'd be, I called him Logan interviews this person's name. And I'd be like, I love that so much more than the movie talk. I love movies to my core.
Yeah.
But I was like, there's nothing more fun than just listening to someone give me their story. And I did a podcast recently with Ike Reichard of Must Ministries.
He's incredible.
Incredible person. And he said something that has stuck with me since his episode. And I'm going to put it on merch or a t-shirt or something and sell it. Because he said that the universe isn't held together by atoms. It's held together by stories.
Oh, man.
And I was like, wow. He was like, everybody's got a story, Logan. And I was like,
yes. Right.
I was like, Jesus Christ. I need to, if I do put it on a t-shirt, I need to quote him in the product description and be like, Ike Reichard said this to me.
Oh, that's so good.
And I was like, man, I just love people's story. Whether it's, whether it's a janitor, a homeless person, or the president of the United States, I want to talk to you and get your story.
Yep.
Because everyone's got one.
Everyone does.
So I love that you're doing that the same way.
Yes.
It's just getting people to talk about themselves. Because, not everyone gets that chance to talk about themselves.
No.
For all we know, the person in the office, 2 doors down, has this incredible story just like yours, and they'll never tell it.
And they never will. And that's what, even for guests that, now that I'm going to networking, I'm announcing that I'm looking for people that want to share their story. Not that I need to, and they're like, oh, do I need to share my story for you to see if it's good enough for your, I'm like,
no,
you have a story.
Your story is good enough for me.
That's it. Exactly. There's not, oh no, that's not inspirational enough. You are standing here, you are crushing life. And even if you don't believe it right now, no. And so it's really cool to see you just know that there's so much behind that. Right. And I'm like, if I can give you the pride of knowing your story matters.
Yes.
That could change their life.
Yes.
Who knows what then they start to believe about themselves because somebody gave them a shot. And I mean, be genuine with Jen. It's not like I'm like, oh, let's go be on Ed Milet. I also know where my podcast is, right? I am beginning, I'm starting. But whenever it does grow, the fact that I got to share you, it wasn't about the success of my podcast. It's the fact that all you're going to know is that you got to have a spot to be honored, to be heard.
It's an incredible feeling.
Right. Exactly. So if somebody hadn't done that for me, I don't know where I would be.
Yeah.
And to get to do that, and it's
freeing.
It's
amazing. And selfishly, if you like to talk about yourself like I do, it's a great time.
Right? So good time, right?
I always, take, and maybe I'll get your advice on this at some point, but I struggle with taking compliments.
Clearly me too. It's when I get quiet when you're saying kind things because I would much rather give them.
I do the same shit.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Last night I met, one of these artists at this show. I interviewed her and her parents were there. And her parents listened to her episode, obviously, because it's her daughter. Right. But then they listened to a couple more, and I bumped into her mom in line at the bar. And she goes, oh, my God, you're Logan from Your Morning Drive. And I said, yes, I am. It's such a pleasure to meet you. And she said, you are so good at driving conversation and making people feel comfortable. She's like, you're so good. I hope you know that. And I was like, oh, God. I'm not. I just give people a place to tell their story. And she's like, but that's the best part is that you're giving people that place. Oh, yeah. Well,
you make it feel like this is safe. And that is a gift because not every platform that I've been on, it just felt robotic and not relational.
Forced.
And you get totally forced.
That's the last. If I get told by somebody at some point, that feels forced, it's going to hurt me. Right. Because that's not what I'm trying to do at all.
Yeah.
I'm almost trying to be genuine with Logan.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like this, all this is us just talking about the highs and the lows and everything in between.
That's it.
I love it.
Me too. It's awesome.
Jen, there comes a point in every episode that I do where I ask every guest the same collection of questions that I don't prepare them for. Not like you were prepared for the first chunk of this time. But
I lived that, so I guess I was kind of
exactly. You're prepared even though you didn't know it directly. Yeah. They're all very first date kind of questions. They're easy questions, but they're just kind of meant to bring it back. So whether I'm interviewing a local podcaster and business owner or I'm interviewing Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to ask her the same questions I'm about to ask you.
Love it.
Ready?
Let's hear it.
They can either be rapid fire if you want, or we can discuss in full if needed.
Okay.
Some of them are a little deeper than others, but again, they're fun questions.
Right.
This portion of the podcast is also brought to us by StageDive. StageDive is a music and podcast streaming platform that aims to put creators first, meaning your subscription will directly benefit the creators that you love. StageDive does not play ads among their creators' content. Instead, they provide a subscription-based model where listeners can discover new music, comedy, podcasts, everything in between for a fixed monthly fee. When creators attract a listener's attention, they earn a portion of that listener's monthly subscription. With code YMD25, you'll get 25% off your first month's subscription. Now, the subscription is only $3.99 a month. So that means with my code, you can get your first month of listening for less than half of a cup of coffee from Starbucks. That means you can support your favorite indie artists and indie creators for less than $3 for your first month. www.stagedive.com. What's your favorite movie?
Okay, first it's Toy Story.
Oh,
Forever.
That's a great answer.
Forever. That will forever be my favorite movie.
That is my comfort movie.
Literally, it's, yeah.
If
Toy
I have
Story.
a bad day, I'm like, I want to fall asleep to Toy Story tonight.
Every day. Like, I love it. So
I love Toy Story. I love that answer. That's a great answer. What was your first car?
Ford Explorer.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I was going to college up in Virginia. And so I got it right before I went to college. So it was my road trip car.
Where'd you
That
go
was
to college in
expensive.
Virginia?
Liberty University.
Gotcha. I went to high school in Virginia as well.
No way. What part?
I lived over kind of near Leesburg-ish
Oh,
area.
okay.
Yeah. How about
Nice.
that?
That's crazy. It's gorgeous up there. Like,
It's
I'm
so
totally
beautiful.
a beach girl, but those Virginia mountains.
Virginia is so pretty.
So pretty.
Underrated state, I think.
Completely under. I had no
Nobody
idea. I just thought it was like
talks about
flatly. I'm like, no, this is not.
It
flat.
is.
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
So very good. Very good. What was your first job ever?
Ooh, first job. So in 8th grade, there was week's worth honey. And it was like, I think it was in Ball Ground. It just felt super north. So maybe it was LJ Jasper Ball Ground. And he would hire me and my friend. We were 13. We would go up there on a Saturday and we would literally, those like bears, like these are like real things. The bears that you fill up the honey.
Yeah.
There's a machine and you fill up the bears. So I get to fill bears with honey in the local honey, Weeks Works honey.
Wow, that's
First
so
job.
cool.
First
First job. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, super random.
Very random, but very cool.
I mean, Chick-fil-A Dwarf House was like my official real job, but
okay.
it will,
okay.
Yeah. But
You've
my
got that Chick-fil-A aura to you,
underage.
which sounds so good, but it's Sunday and we can't have it.
We can't. I know.
What is a tool, whether it's a software, a piece of hardware, or something that you use to run your brand, your podcast, your business, your whatever, that you could not live without? If the developer of the software said, we're closing our doors and you will no longer be able to use this, what would crush you the most?
Oh, what would crush me? I guess any video capability, because everything I do, I'm like, I can run it on different platforms. So I'm like, it's not really a platform because I started here and went there. But if we lost the capability of putting video into the space, then I think that's what's connected me to so many people is.
Which I love that
video.
also, by the way. I got to the point where I look forward to your hello friends chats in the car on Instagram every day, because I love that you share the wins and the losses.
Mhm.
Like, you're so genuine,
Mhm.
part of the brand. I look forward to it at this point. I think
so
it's
fun.
so fun because I'm like, yes, she won today. Let's
Oh, yeah.
go.
That's awesome.
Do you have any allergies?
Zero.
That's amazing.
Not one thing.
I'm allergic to so
Oh, that's so sad.
much. It's so horrible. I can't drink beer.
Oh.
So, well, which is kind of nice because I just get to drink like high noons and seltzers
There you go.
and
There's
wine, and there's so many.
alternatives. Yes.
I
Not a big beer
was
person.
talking about this last night. I am thankful that I am a young adult in this age of alcohol, because back in the day it was like beer and wine
Right.
and liquor.
Yeah.
But now with all these canned cocktails and seltzers and all these other options,
Exactly.
there's not a better time to be allergic to beer.
That's right. You're set. I love that.
100%. All right. I want you to rank these 3 things in order of your favorite to least favorite.
Okay.
Queso, guac, and salsa.
Listen, bro. If it was desserts, that'd be easy because I'm such a chips, queso, guac, salsa girl. Okay, I'm going to have to go. Guac is the top, then queso, then salsa. Oh, but that makes me hurt because I love salsa. But
Yeah.
I mean,
salsa is just so inconsistent. It's either chunky or liquidy or really hot or really not.
It's so true.
Whereas queso, you know what you're getting for the most part.
Every time. And except for you're in Texas. That was one thing I had to learn in Texas. It's not white cheese in Texas.
Really? What is it?
Yellow. Okay. And I'm like, this isn't supposed to be like, and they like mix. It's always like chili con queso. So there's always stuff.
I'm not a fan of it. I just want straight up queso.
And I'm like, I've never just needed plain queso more in my life than that. But yeah, I love guac. And it's so funny. When I was little, that was like the only thing I didn't like was avocados.
I can't do it. I'm not a fan.
Okay. There's hope for you because I was like that. I thought it was like trash mush in a pile. Like I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, why?
They come to your table and they grind it up. I'm like, why is this like a show?
Right?
Why are we watching you do this? Just bring it out in a damn bowl.
It's funny. Like who started that? Leave it to Chili's.
Leave it to Chili's to start a movement of coming to the if you pay $2, you get to watch me make it. Okay.
But they have $5 margaritas, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. They make up for it in other places. If this is morbid, but if you were getting the electric chair tomorrow, what would your last meal on earth be? You can get it from any restaurant. It can be home cooked. Last thing on the planet.
We're going to have to stick with the Mexican theme because steak fajitas at Papacitos with that Mexican butter over on top of the steak in there. It's my favorite meal with their guac, with all the things. So that would be, I need Papacitos in my life right now. Actually,
that sounds so good.
Yeah.
Damn.
So good.
All right. You get to organize a music festival and you are picking the 3 headliners. We're not talking about ticket sales. We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about who are the 3 headliners that you would most want to see in one festival.
Okay, listen. So if you do follow me on my stories, you may have seen I am still a huge boy band fan. I mean, I graduated in 2001. Like that was Backstreet Boys NSYNC era.
Hell yeah.
And people are like, what was your favorite? I'm like, I didn't need to choose. Like I can just like bye and all the things. And quit playing games with my heart, like all of it. So I would have to have the dueling boy bands. And then my other absolute favorite artist that we're supposed to be best friends, she just doesn't know it, is Kelly Clarkson. Like I am the biggest Kelly Clarkson fan. And I think her with those little boy band duos would be
that'd be a fire show.
So fun.
Hell yeah.
So fun. That's what I would do.
What does a no kids, no work, no obligation, self-care day look like for you? How would you spend it?
Oh, I mean, in an ideal world, it would just be on the beach. Like there is something like, I mean, I love the sun. I love all that, but like therapeutic about the ocean for me. I don't ever feel the depth of peace that I feel just sitting at the ocean. So I would need to transport because that would be a quick day trip. But yeah, I would say by the beach with a book, music, nobody else. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Good
That's a
drinks
great
in
answer.
the cooler. Yeah.
What does success look like to you?
Oh, geez. That is a loaded question. Success for me, I mean, of course, I have big vision board dreams, right? Like monetarily, but I think those are only success to me if I build, when I build, words are important. When I build, be genuine to the level that I want it to be, where I can impact millions of people and help women set themselves free from limiting beliefs and masks and all of that and step into who they really are. Like to have that impact, like success for me would look like that. It would be on being on those big stages, but only because of the impact. I don't want fame. I don't care if anybody even knows my name. I know it's Be Genuine with Jen, so that's weird, but I don't need you to know my name. But if I could have that impact, then I get to live in the dream house where it's like the party house for my kids and all their friends and just have that like safe place for them to be. Mm-hmm. Those are practical dreams that I know are possible if I build the impact that I want to have.
I love that. Great answer. Whether it's controversial or funny, what is a hill that you are willing to die on?
Oh, a hill I'm willing to die on. Oh, listen. Thankfully, you can edit this. I'm going to need a second.
Whether like I always throw, because everyone always is stumped by that. So I always throw in one of mine. Like this is a hot take. So it could be, I could reword this. What's a hot take that you will just ride or die?
Right.
I will always prefer a burger over a steak. People judge me heavily for that.
Yeah, I probably would too.
Or I hate ranch. Fuck out of here with that ranch crap.
Okay, now, I mean, I would say if you totally put me in the food mode.
Yeah.
Because I will get heated if somebody orders a well-done steak. I think that's stupid. Like, you have obliterated all of the flavor of the steak. Keep the juices.
Yeah.
Like, just keep it. I'm medium rare all day, every day. And don't give me steak sauce. Don't give me anything. Like, I just want a medium rare steak. So people are well done. I may question your judgment because I'm like, you did that on purpose. Like, you took the flavor out on purpose. I question everything. So that'd probably be
that's a good one. Yeah, that's very solid. A couple more. What is your biggest fear?
I could go funnier. Okay, so funny is snakes. I'm terrified. My kids think it's hilarious. They literally I'll just stick with this answer, snakes, because my kids bought me snakeskin boots just because they were like, a snake had to die. Mom, you're welcome. Yeah. I was like, that was actually pretty genius.
Very genius, honestly. Great thinking on their part.
I'm like, that is great deductive reasoning. So yeah, snakes. I'm like, there is no good snake. I'm probably not going to kill it but I'm not going to touch it. Yeah. I'm not going to have it as a pet.
Definitely not going to be near it.
No. Terrified.
So if a snake just came from under the door right now, what would your immediate reaction be?
Oh, I would be up, like high, because I know they don't have legs, so we're good.
Well, in your defense, I also would probably be up high.
Okay, well then
I would be terrified.
There's plenty of room, so we're good.
We're good. We're good. Yeah. And then lastly, 10 years from now, where are you?
10 years from now, I am... 10 years. My youngest will be graduating high school. Ooh, that's crazy. So I will be happily remarried. I will be speaking on big stages. And my kids will be grown and living their best life 10 years from now.
It's very simple, but very good.
Yeah. That's all I want. I want my kids to be good. I want stages to happen. And I'm very happy single right now. Very happy. I've had a lot of rebuilding and healing and all of that. So the thought of any kind of relationship, but eventually.
But you do want that to happen again for you.
I love too big to just be on my own forever. So that will be in my future at some point.
Good.
Whenever it's the right time.
Well, now I'm going to let you look to the camera and to the microphone and plug all of your things, all of the socials, the business, the insurance, all of the podcast, all of it. Just plug away.
You're too kind. First of all, before we do, and I want to say thank you. Like, you really are super good at what you do, and the opportunity just to join your mission and passion to make people's lives better has been super cool. I'm Jenn Gray, if you didn't get that. So I do have a podcast. It's Be Genuine with Jen. It is on all the things, and it's also live if you want to see in-person video. That's over on YouTube at I'm Jenn Gray. That's where I'm at on Instagram, of course, Facebook. I'm Jenn Gray, LinkedIn, all the places. I do love connecting with business owners or entrepreneurs just to provide the best with health insurance and life insurance. I'm connected about 30 companies. I'm not biased because I've got so many companies. I'm just here to make sure that you're not paying too much money. Groceries are expensive. No reason I'm paying too much money for health insurance. And lastly, I am launching my speaking career. It launches on Monday. We didn't even talk about this, Logan. So Monday, it all launches live, where I am branching out, and I spoke to my first event this past week. So I am available to speak at your team events, conventions, or other gatherings where people need to be reminded their authenticity is their superpower, whether it's to help your team step into a better team culture, or it's just to inspire the people that you're doing life with. I would love to be a part of that. So look forward to you following, and for me to follow your journey. And always remember to be genuine.
Amazing. Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words too, because again, like I said, I can't take a compliment instead of just shriveling up. I'm like, oh no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I love following your journey. I love that I'm in it now.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see you grow and do all of your all of the things will grow. And I just can't wait to see where you go from here. So I truly admire it.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Everybody, I will throw all of the links, all of the things, which, first of all, take a shot every time someone nowadays in 2024 says all of the things. Where did that come from?
I don't know, but I say it all the time.
I do all the things.
All the things.
And people get it.
Exactly.
Even people who
where did it start?
even old people are just like, all the things.
Yeah, right.
They understand.
They do.
So it's a lingo that everyone can be in on. But I'll put all of her things in the description so that they're easy to track, easy to follow. Thank you again for Fireworks for hosting us this morning. And your authenticity is your superpower. If you take nothing else from this today, take that with you. Hope everyone has a great rest of their week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.